Louisiana versus all y'all. Jarrett Roser here today with Louisiana Tech assistant head coach, offensive coordinator. Uh, you still the recruiting coordinator too up there? You had to hand that off.
I've passed that off. I passed that off. Although I still kind of dabble in everything a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just when you've been around for 9 years, you just seem to know a lot of different things on how Coach Holtz wants to run the program. So.
Yeah, and you say been around 9 years. You've been around Coach Holtz a long time. Joe Sloan, who was a player for Skip Holtz at ECU and then transitioned to start his coaching career there, was down in South Florida, and now, as you mentioned, been in Ruston for 9 years. I was joking with you. It was getting pretty close to a decade. So
very close. Very close.
I appreciate you taking some time late night on a Tuesday with camp right here on the horizon and chatting a little bit.
Hey, well, I appreciate you having me. Always good to hop on.
Yes, sir. So we're going to talk a lot about Joe's kind of background through that decade, he and Coach Holtz and the staff up there, and just sort of some big picture mindsets and philosophies that they've taken to have the success that they've had there with that Louisiana Tech program. But really starting out with the task at hand, y'all are just a couple days here from all the guys reporting back and getting into fall camp. I wanted to say getting back to a more normal year, but we see some numbers flying around with COVID again. But as you get close to, all right, we're going to kick off another season, what are some of the feelings right now? What's the mentality with these guys coming back after that really weird year last year and just getting it back together and getting back to it?
No, Jared, that's a great point. I mean, so, last year, I think for a couple of reasons. One, just the uncertainty of everything last year, and as we all dealt with, such just a strange year for football. Now, I'm so pumped we got a chance to play because for a while there we were all concerned about that, but it definitely was a wild time. But I think coming off of that, not to mention for us, we had won 6 bowl games in a row, so for a long time we've gone into the off season feeling pretty good about ourselves, and last year that changed. Went to a 7 straight bowl game, but didn't have the same result. So I think we've had kind of a renewed energy this offseason just about the guys have really been working hard, getting after it. I think really evaluating some things and looking at what we need to do, pressing forward. And I think that's really created a renewed excitement, as we work through the offseason. So I'm excited. I can't wait. The guys have been working really hard this summer, had an awesome summer working with Kurt Hester. And, we're only a couple days away. So we're going to get after it here. Check in Thursday and start getting after it Friday.
I mentioned you being the offensive coordinator, and you've worked with the receivers some years. You work very closely with the quarterbacks. At this point, you guys have a bunch of them up there that all kind of bring some different things to that room. Where is that group? I mean, you got a guy that I obviously know well in Caleb Holstein that's been with y'all there for, I guess, a year and a half, 2 years now.
Yeah.
And again, a pretty full room with some guys back.
Yeah, we have I love being around that group of guys. We have just a unique blend of personalities. We have a great time together. Quarterbacks in coaching receivers, you talk all about the camaraderie of the room, and there's a lot of different. You can have different roles for guys, so it's a little bit easier to create that. At the quarterback position, ultimately one guy's going to get to play. One guy gets to be in there at a time. And so sometimes creating that camaraderie amongst the room is a little bit different than maybe some other positions. And what I've been really fortunate with right now, the guys we have in the room, they work really well together. They work with each other. They root for each other, try to bring out the best in each other. So it's been fun. Caleb's up here has been, he's a trip. He's really smart. He's a fun guy to be around. So we've had a lot of fun together. He's done a really good job working hard to get better over the last year. Just his feet and balance have drastically improved. Something he's been working really hard at. So I've been really proud of him. And we got another young guy, JD Head from Houston, from Pearland, who's really done a nice job since he's been here. He's been here about 2 years now, or a year and a half now. So excited about him. And then we got a couple guys coming back, and Aaron Allen, who played a lot last year, another guy from Houston, Luke Anthony, who's coming off of an injury, and because him coming off an injury, and just a little bit of the slow, couple setbacks here and there, ended up taking a grad transfer, Austin Kendall, who was kind of starting his real job, and had an opportunity with us, and it worked out. And it's something that, we've had some success with in the past, and he saw that. And he came in and is going to attack this opportunity. So it's kind of a unique dynamic, but all the guys are working hard, competing, and get ready to get after it here over August. So it's going to be a fun quarterback battle, and it'll be a fun quarterback room. I can't wait to watch him work over the next few weeks.
I wanted to ask you about another guy from down in this area in Smoke Harris and the way that he's developed for you guys. He was just an undersized but constantly explosive guy out of West Feliciana with that group that was probably the best group that they've had come through, went on and won a state championship. And to watch him continue to develop and do the things he's able to do at that next level, how much fun has that been? What's been the biggest, I guess, steps forward you've seen him take at the college level these last couple of years?
Yeah, well, I think, the biggest thing is, in recruiting, you look at guys and you try to project what they're going to be when they get to college. And it's definitely not an exact science, as we all know. You're really involved in the recruiting world. So, we all think something's going to happen, and sometimes it doesn't turn out exactly that way. But as I look back at Smoke, all the way back to when I first started recruiting here, when I first got to Louisiana Tech, I developed a strong relationship with Rob Odom over at West Feliciana. And it's a place that St. Francisville is a place that is a lot like Ruston. The guys kind of identify with Ruston when they come up. It's a community where, it's an easy transition for them. And it started with Jay Ferguson. And Jalen came up here and had a lot of success. And, as I go back through, because of Jay, I ended up, I was around the school a lot. Started to kind of develop a relationship with Smoke when he was just a young guy. And I remember he came to our camp back when we were doing traveling camps, when we were allowed to do traveling camps at Denham Springs. And Smoke he was just a sophomore. He was going to be a junior. And there was like 400 kids there that day. And he had to take 50 reps. He must have cut the line. He must have cut the line every rep. There were parents in the stands yelling, "Don't let that kid cut you again." It was so, I think that's one thing, we knew, or really I knew, just getting to know him and being around Coach Odom and all the different people in the school, just what they said about Smoke, what type of worker he was. You could see the dynamic ball carrying ability on tape, on film. You could see it. But he was going to have a transition as he became more of a receiver and less just of a ball carrier. He could have gone a lot of places and been a ball carrier, and he and I talked a lot about that would limit you so much. You need to become a receiver. And I knew that he was going to work, and he was going to use his intelligence and work ethic to do that. And that came to fruition. So, it doesn't always work that way. But I like to say he had a lot of traits, and a lot of the people around the school and everything I really could trust that spoke so highly of him. He's a phenomenal leader. He has unreal energy. He just brings a passion every single day that he comes in. So he makes not only has he pushed himself, but he pushes the other guys around him. He's a huge piece of who we are right now at Louisiana Tech. He's the type of guy we want to build this program around.
You mentioned kind of finding some of these guys that are in community schools that there are some similarities in just kind of the area that they're in to a Ruston. And that's something we've talked about through the years is y'all have had an ability to identify some of these guys that are maybe a little bit under recruited by some of the bigger schools, but you can kind of pinpoint them early and identify that they're going to be a fit for not only what you guys do football wise, but just where they're coming to go to school. Tell me some more about that, what those conversations are like for you guys as a staff, and how that emphasis kind of comes into place.
Yeah. So I think what Coach Holtz, since we've been here, he's led the charge on this, and then we've kind of been, as assistant coaches, kind of putting it into action, is let's make sure we get guys who are going to be successful at Louisiana Tech, because ultimately, we're recruiting talented football players, but we're a development football program. Like we believe in development. We believe in getting our guys better. And if our guys are playing their best football as juniors and seniors, that's how we have a chance to have extreme success, and consistent success. And in doing that, So if you want a guy to be successful in his junior and senior year, that means he needs to be in a place where, he's going to have a good experience. He's going to identify with it. And day in, day out, he's going to be excited to be there. So, if Ruston is an unbelievable community that's built around Louisiana Tech, Louisiana Tech football is a huge piece of that. So if that's something that, a young man wants and identifies with, or has kind of a background where they're going to have a smooth transition into that. Those are the type of guys that we really try to go after. Not saying, hey, we've had some guys from New Orleans who have, and from maybe more of the city area, Baton Rouge, or Houston or Dallas, who have come here and done really well. And I think a lot of times those guys or their families are specifically wanting maybe them to get out of a more urban environment and into our type of environment, and it'll be good for them. So, but I do think you hit on it when you said, when you start talking about Livonia and the Willie Bakers, right? C.J. Powell, who had a nice career here, right? And Smoke Harris, Jay Ferguson, different guys from Western Road, and Xavier Woods, right? I mean, you could go on and on about the different guys who come from communities that are similar to Ruston. And it's easy to see how they transition so well here. That's what we try to really pinpoint, is one, do they fit the criteria that we want in terms of what type of young man they are, what type of football player they are, what type of student they are. And then, are they going to continually get better and be excited about being a Louisiana Tech Bulldog? And that's been, I think, the fun part of building it. And, we learn more and more every year. But I think we continually get, as you look, we talk about the dog brotherhood. We talk about our locker room, and that's, we talk to recruits. We talk about that's the most special thing about this place. Well, to keep talking about that, we got to put the right guys in there, So I think for the most part, we've been able to do that. And that's really why we've been successful, consistently year in, year out.
In some of those instances that, when you recruit a more rural area school, that means that you're potentially going into a school that is not used to the recruiting process at all in some cases. Can you remember some instances where you're going into, and maybe it was Livonia years back with Russell Ferris and Willie and that, where
you know what I was going to say, Russell Ferris with Brew, and I think Russell. I remember we're going through just some of the different processes. You know what I mean, and especially the biggest thing when a guy hasn't come out of a school in a while, where there hasn't been a prospect out of school in a while, is just the counselors and the different administration and things like that being up to speed on the NCAA eligibility, and the sliding scale and the core courses, and then some rural schools, no one in particular, maybe don't offer as many course options as, say, I know Zachary's a little bit more of a rural area, but let's say Zachary, right, who has a lot of different course options, whatever that might be. So working through that, I think, has been, the biggest thing. And that's why you got to identify different guys early and create relationships with high school coaches. It's important. We've made it an emphasis to be in every school in Louisiana every year, and sitting down and visiting and making sure that high school coaches in this state know Louisiana Tech football, know Louisiana Tech football coach, and have someone they could reach out to and talk with. And those are the things that I think they're important. And you know what? Maybe a school doesn't have anybody for 4 years, but that fifth year, it pays dividends, because ultimately high school coaches are the high school coaches and different people in the community, whether it be through 7-on-7s or whatever that might be. You guys are around these players a lot more than we are. You're in their communities. So it's important that everybody knows who Louisiana Tech football is and has some kind of relationship with somebody up here, so that they can identify with it, and they can pass along a lot of the different information about our program to these young men as they work through high school.
Different college coaches have different feelings about how much they truly love the recruiting piece of it versus if they want to just be out there and worrying about their position group and things like that. And you are someone that, I mean, you started very involved in recruiting, and even now as you've taken on bigger roles, and we talk about moving on to the coordinator role, moving up to the coordinator role, it's something you're still clearly very passionate about and like to be involved with. What do you think has made you gravitate toward that part of this whole big picture?
I think success in football, and I think success in general, in any organization, is about people and what people you have and what personnel you have in your building. I think that's so important. And in college football, the sad part is no matter how good a guy we get in here, and no matter how hard he works and how much he develops and how great a player he becomes, eventually he has to leave. Right? We can't keep them. So eventually they got to leave. And I think that's the biggest thing is so consistently you're having to turn over your personnel, in college football. And if you start with a core fundamental belief that it's all about the people that you have, and it's all about the personnel that you have, then you're going to work hard at it because ultimately that's what you got to start with to be successful. Is talented, smart people who are going to push each other, who are good people, who are going to work hard, who are going to bring out the best in each other. So that's always been a key focus of mine. And then I enjoy relationships. I enjoy that piece. I enjoy seeing different guys come out of high school and be successful, whether they come to Louisiana Tech or not. I kind of keep track of different guys and stay in touch with different coaches. And that's something that I enjoy. I enjoy the relationship side of it, no doubt. And then from a Louisiana Tech football side, I think it's all about the people who we put in this building, and then the way we operate it and the way we play football, the way we coach is going to matter that much more. So that's where it starts, But I think I'm with you. Some guys don't like it. I think it's tough to be a college football coach, and I think it's tough to be in college football if you don't enjoy recruiting somewhat. So it's something you better like. But it's competitive. It's fun. There's no doubt about it. But it's easy when you have a great place to talk about, right? When I'm talking to guys about Louisiana Tech and talking about Ruston and talking about the success that Coach Holtz has had here and our programs had, it definitely makes it a lot easier, and because I believe in this place. I believe in our community. I believe in what we do as a Louisiana Tech football program and what we do at Louisiana Tech University. So when you believe it, and you believe that when you see a young man that he can be successful here, it makes it easy. So it makes it kind of fun because you can see what they can be if we can get them here to Ruston. So I think that's been the enjoyable piece for me. And the fun part is being in Louisiana. And since I've been here, Coach Holtz put me in Baton Rouge, and I just kind of roll from there. Helped out a lot of different ways throughout the program in terms of our recruiting side. And when you're in such a fertile recruiting area with guys that can play and enjoy playing the game and are good people and are hard workers and have good character, it's definitely been fun.
You grew up in Virginia and then went to ECU as we mentioned, and then moved down to South Florida, which obviously that's a prominent recruiting ground as well, and then come to Louisiana and see some of the talent out here. What do you remember some about your first, arriving to Louisiana and kind of branching out and getting to know some of these high school coaches? Do you have any interesting stories early on with anything with food or accent or anything that kind of came up of just kind of learning Louisiana and learning the ropes of the state and any piece of the football community or a bigger culture or anything like that?
Well, I think one, I was leaving South Florida as a GA, and I was coming here as the inside receiver coach. So obviously I was excited, just as my his first position coaching job and everything else. So I'm all jacked up. I'm ready, and then I roll in, and we have a stadium on campus, which at South Florida. So going to East Carolina, I was in a college town, and stadium. Saturdays in Greenville were a big deal, right? And all of a sudden I'm riding in and I'm saying, okay, now I'm back in it, right? Back in this, in a college town, college football town, let's roll. Whereas in Tampa, you play in Ray J, and that's great and everything, but it's just a long way. It's just a different atmosphere. So I was fired up about that. As you come in, you can kind of feel it. you can feel the community around you. You know, they know what Louisiana Tech football is. They're all paying attention. So that made it fun. And shoot, I think me, Tim Rattay, Jabbar Luke was probably Jab was one of my first introductions to, you know, he was kind of my window to Louisiana high school football coaching. And I guess maybe I was his window to how college football recruiting worked on this side. So we kind of helped each other. So that was fun. And we had a blast. But I remember we all met with Stan Egan at Ponchatoula's for lunch. So that was my first introduction at Moose's Place here in town at Ponchatoula. So that was good. And then boom, I rock and roll down to Baton Rouge. I did figure out pretty quick that you know, not a Louisiana thing, but I figured out Houston is the biggest city in the world. You know, when you drive 1 hour, I had 2 recruiting visits. One was on one side and one was an hour on the other side. That was kind of my first ride out. So that was interesting. But no, I think, you know, when I got down into Louisiana, couple guys looked after me, and, you know, Jab was really, really good about introducing me to a lot of different people. Man, Eric Hell was a huge help. You know, Todd Black is a good friend of Coach Holtz's and had a relationship, and he kind of started introducing me to some different people. I mean, I could go on and on about all the different coaches that I got to meet then, and I've known those guys for a long time, you know, since then. When you go talk about Coach Weiner and Brew, and, you know, I mean, the list goes on for a while in terms of just the different people that I've been around and had the fortunate opportunity to meet. So I think it was fun then, and I'd say it's probably more rewarding now as I've watched the different guys, you know, in different places that they've been and different successes they've had. We go from when I was recruiting Catholic to start with, you know, Anthony Camp was a D coordinator. You know, now he's our defensive line coach, working with me, you know, side by side. So it's been fun, no doubt.
You guys took over a program. You mentioned there was a lot of attention to it. The community was supportive of it. They'd had some recent success under Sonny Dykes and company. His tenure there ended in kind of a weird place. And then you guys have a struggle of a first year. What was that process like of building to what it became and going on to win 6 bowl games, which is one of the longest streaks ever by any school? What were some of, I guess, kind of the key moments and keys to getting to where this program is now, where 9 years later, you guys are kind of humming, you know who y'all are, and everyone else, not just in the Ruston community, but around the state and around the region, has a pretty good sense of what Louisiana Tech is?
Yeah, well, I think Coach Holtz had a really good idea. He had a really good feel of the program and the community really quick, you know, and he knew what our identity was going to be, and he knew where our lifeblood was going to be. I think, you know, when we got here, we had players kind of from all over a little bit. Defensively, had a lot of really, really young, talented players that were from our area, but, you know, then we had just a lot of guys from a lot of places. We kind of put a flag down and said, hey, we're going to draw a 6-hour radius, and we're going to roll from here, you know. And I think as I look back, the thing that he's done a great job of is we've built it through high school recruiting, especially starting in Louisiana, always. And the high school coaches have been really great to us in helping us that way to make sure they send us great guys. You know, but that's where it started, and then was sprinkled in with some different older guys, whether it be junior college guys, whether it be some grad transfers or some transfers that had to sit in the past, you know. And I think what we've really done a good job of is getting the right transfers in. A lot of times, guys from our area, I think probably the one it started with he's working with us now, Paul Turner. You know, he was the first one really that we had taken, and he came the first year. He's from West Monroe, was playing at LSU, wasn't playing the role that he wanted, came, sat out, and ended up he was our second leading receiver for 2 years in a row, or 1 year second, 1 year's third. But just did an unbelievable job for us. And I think really kind of set the tempo from that standpoint. I mean, the next year, Houston Bates comes down, you know, another Louisiana guy, grad transfer from Illinois, ends up being a captain, breaks a bowl game sack record. against his old team. So in our first bowl victory. So just I think, you know, as I look back, the right mixture of high school guys with some different older guys added in at the right positions to help us out. You know, as I look, I think that's Coach Holtz had a really good vision about that. And then we've stayed true to our philosophy, you know, as we go through. And I think that's the most important thing. If you have a philosophy and if you have an understanding of who you are, it's so much easier year in, year out to stay consistent because you can always come back. You can lean back on that foundation. And that's been the biggest thing. You know, there were a couple things we had to go over. Obviously, Coach Dykes, they had an unbelievable year the year before, but a lot of guys stepped out. I think we had eight guys off that offense either went to an NFL camp. I believe it was. I mean, they had a lot of talent walk out the door. So it was definitely interesting, but it started right there. And, you know, we've kind of kept that same, plan for success, stuck to it, and work with the different people around Louisiana Tech to make sure that we continue to push that forward.
A lot's changed since you guys got there, just in terms of the big picture. We saw the early signing period come in a few years ago, and then we see the transfer portal changes. We see now everyone's still trying to kind of scramble and figure out what exactly name, image, likeness means. What have been some of the biggest challenges or curveballs, I guess, particularly with the roster management pieces, to try to develop as the NCAA develops around you?
No, I think well, you hit it right on the head. I mean, there's been so many things change. One, change here for the, in Ruston at Louisiana Tech, change for the better. I mean, when Coach got here, Dr. Geis, our president, and Tommy McCullen were all basically in the first year together and kind of grew. And shoot, now the building that we're in, the press box we have, and everything else really has grown around us. And a lot of different facilities have grown. And during that time, then like you were talking about, all the things that are changing, around us in the football community in terms of, I think the early signing period's been, I like it. I like it personally. I think when guys are going around and when they're able to come get on our campus, the way that we recruit, with the guys that we recruit mostly from, within 5-6 hours, they're able to come over here a couple times, obviously, other than COVID time frame, but they're able to come over here a few times, really get to know us, see our campus, us see them, visit with their families. And I think that's been huge. And when they're sure of that and they're able to now sign in December and lock that up, and then start focusing on finishing their senior year strong and focusing on start getting ready to get here in the summer. I think that's been good. But it was definitely a change, and it's definitely been an adjustment, and it throws another curveball into it. Because of the two periods, but I think we've adjusted that well. The NIL is going to be interesting. I think we're all learning, right? We're all learning, definitely. There's no doubt about that. So the transfer portal piece, Jared, I think is, we're going to make sure that we put ourselves in the best situation possible. I think it's great that, if transferring is good, for young men, if they feel like they're in the wrong position. I think at times it's, there are times where guys need to just work through some things, right? They'll usually come out good in the end, but there are definite times where, hey, maybe they just need a different situation, whether it be on the field or off the field or wherever that might be. So I think it'll be good. And I think right now it's just really exciting and very talked about. I think it'll settle in a little bit over the next few years, but it's definitely helped us. We've been able to get the right guys, I believe, out of the transfer portal who are going to help us. But we were doing that before it was the portal, back when it was just releases. So that didn't really change. It just, now you got one place to go look. So that makes it maybe a little bit easier. But no, it's college football. I think you hit it on the head when you said there's a couple major things that have changed in 2 years. When guys can transfer once without penalty, and then now all of a sudden the name, image, and likeness. And I think you have to attack them. You got to continue to grow, and I think they're great for college football. I think that college football players can now go out and profit off their name, image, and likeness. It's things they can take advantage of. It eliminates some of the well, am I breaking rule or am I not? I don't know. So it eliminates a lot of that. And I think it's good for the players. It puts them in a situation where if they're being successful, if they're doing the right things, then they can profit off of that. So that's great. And, and then, like we talked about the transfer portal, I think that's been really discussed thing over the last year, but I think it's gone smooth. I do. I think it's gone smooth. I think there are some guys that maybe have gotten stuck out there, and I think people will look at that a little bit as they evaluate. The roster management thing is very real, though. It's very real, and as we look, you got to make sure. That's where I'm fortunate. I work for a guy who really understands that, and Skip. He's always been that way. He's always looked at initials, at counters, what our class is, and how many seniors, how many juniors, how many sophomores, how many freshmen, and make sure we're balanced. And make sure we plug those holes when we need to, so that we're never in a position where one position room is getting wiped out, or whether we have all of a sudden we have 30 some seniors or something like that, where we can't get back to 85 scholarships. Those things are really critical. And with the immediate eligibility of transferring, they just became that much more important. I think it's going to put a spotlight on it, and you're going to see some teams struggle with it. But I think you have to have a great culture. You got to have a great culture every single day. When guys walk in the building, they have to know where they're coming to school, and then they have to be excited when they get there. And if you're selling them things that aren't true, then you know what, you're going to have an excessive amount of guys transfer out, and it's going to be hard to handle your roster. So you got to continue to have a good culture where they're excited to work, where they're excited to be there, and excited to get after it. And that's what we're doing here in Ruston. So I'm fortunate. I think both of these things will be great for Louisiana Tech football and for us moving forward.
We talk about you've been there for 9 years now. Has it registered that you've probably been in Louisiana Tech attire longer than anywhere else before, even as this may be the longest that you've been at a school, even as a student?
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
How does that feel to be almost 10 years into being a Louisianan?
No, it's been awesome. I have a lot of great friends in the community, obviously in the football program, and have been fortunate to meet a lot of great people who have come through here and been coworkers here. So that's been fun. But then different people in the community, I feel a part of the community. It's not just as a football coach, but whether it be in my church or just hanging out in town, or whatever that might be. Different relationships that I have, and they're ones that I really cherish. I met my wife here. She's from about 45 minutes down the road. We have a 1-year-old, and it's a great place to have a family. It's a great place to live. I just think it's every day I wake up and when I go to work, it's a special environment. It really is, and you don't get that everywhere. I was telling somebody that, maybe I think we were talking maybe a week ago, just about coaching. A lot of places you go and you hang out with your staff, right? Everybody always hangs out with staff, and I hang out with our staff. We have an unbelievable staff. It's fun, but I think Ruston, and especially for me being here so long, I've been able to create some relationships that'll last for a long time. That in this community. So it's been special. It definitely has, but it's, they were welcoming when I got here, and it's been nothing but that all the way through. So it's been fun.
They joke, I guess, about Louisiana, but certainly New Orleans specifically, but even big picture, once you meet the girl, like, you're pretty much locked in. Like, once you meet your woman.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no, hey, yeah, no, I hear you there. So that's, trust me, her mom and dad would say that too, because I got that grandbaby sleeping upstairs. So there's no doubt about that. But it's an awesome place, and it's a special place. I think this state is just naturally welcoming. Naturally welcoming. It's easy to create relationships here, just because of the mindset of the people. That's what makes it special.
Good deal, man. Well, I certainly appreciate you again taking some time to chat about some of it. on a Tuesday night, just a couple days before those guys come report back and get back to everything. Always a pleasure.
Hey, Jared, always a pleasure. And I mean, it's always Louisiana versus all y'all. So, you got to get the plug in. But I really appreciate you doing this and appreciate you having me on. You're there for the kids in this state. You're there for the high school players in this state and for the coaches in the state and really for everybody in the football community and what you do. And you're always just trying to shine a light on the good things that are going on. So I appreciate you allowing me to be a little part of that and sit and visit with you a little bit. But appreciate you for all you do for everybody in this football community in Louisiana. So thank you.
Man, likewise, and appreciate you saying that. Again, he's Joe Sloan, offensive coordinator and assistant head coach up at Louisiana Tech. The Bulldogs getting ready for another exciting year up in Ruston. Expecting some big things from those guys. For Louisiana versus all y'all, Jarrett Roser.